Today's episode of Monkey Business on the Monkey Sports Podcast is brought to you by Lacrosse Monkey. Next time you need any lacrosse gear, head to lacrossemonkey.com, plug in promo code PODCAST10, that's PODCAST, the number 10, 10% off your entire order. lacrossemonkey.com, promo code PODCAST10, PODCAST, the number 10% off your entire order. Some exclusions may apply. Let's get into some monkey business.
What's the name of this podcast again?
Clean win by Costabile. Charging toward the net. He scores! It is a story.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Monkey Business Podcast, brought to you by the Monkey Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in and for your continued support of the Monkey Sports Podcast. Great interview on tap for you today. We talked to lacrosse legend, arguably the greatest player of all time, John Grant Jr. We talk about almost none of his actual lacrosse playing, a great interview about his coaching career. He was just recently named the offensive coordinator for Johns Hopkins. Great interview there. Stay tuned for it. We've got Hank in studio. Hank, how's it going?
Hello. Great. Fantastic. Fun. Excited. Started stringing sticks again recently, and that's hard. My fingers hurt a lot. I currently have blisters all over my pointer and my pinky finger, but, having a good time with it.
Yeah, obviously not a lot of lacrosse news going on right now. Not a lot of lacrosse being played right now. No. So let's talk a little bit of stringing. I think you and I both are late to the stringing game because both not starting to string until after our careers were over.
No, I was like, hey, Jason, string this, or Jason Myers, my friend in high school, or Graham Hosick strung for me in college, and it's just like nothing I thought about.
Subtle.
Yeah,
subtle name drop on the
plug.
Graham. Oh yeah,
Graham
Team
Hosick,
Canada's Graham Hosick strung my sticks.
Greatest player of the decade, defensively, strung my sticks. No, but I don't know. I just never something I really cared about. It didn't interest me. I didn't want to spend the time on it. That was the biggest thing. I was just like, I got to spend 4 hours learning this. I got other stuff to do like class.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like you look at it and it looks a lot more intricate, and then once you start actually doing it, shout out to the U-string by String King. That was pretty much the only tool that I used. I know you went through ECD Greg a lot in some YouTube videos,
yeah.
But I just straight up the 30-second clips of you tie the knot this way. I watched those just repeatedly until I pretty much learned how to do it.
Yeah, I watched some Daddy Greg, and I watched some...
Which, hey, great podcast from a couple months ago.
Plug.
ECD Greg, check it out.
We privately call him Daddy Greg, but just for the stringing stuff. No, and then, I did the U-string thing just to learn, the vocab and, what to do and when and where and how. But, now it's just, I'll just redo my sidewall every couple of days because it's why not? You're sitting around, might as well. You're sitting on the couch, just bang out the sidewall again, get it tight. Because I watched one of those, weapon of choice videos with Mark Matthews, former Denver great, with the 4 shooting strings because he's ridiculous. And he was yeah, every couple of days I'll just mess around with my sidewall, just change it up, do this, that. I'm yeah, I guess I can do that too. Might as well. So.
What's funny too is now that you kind of know how to string a little bit better, do you think it's the wand or the wizard? And I'm asking this for a reason.
As someone who's played with bad sticks, you can definitely get away with it. You can't be as consistent, but you for sure, if your stick's bad, you can adjust. Humans are smart. They can do that kind of stuff. But you definitely set yourself up for more success with a better stick for sure.
Yeah, I think everything takes time. But the reason why I ask is because we both saw the John Grant Jr. video of him using a shovel in his backyard. We talk about it a little bit with the interview, or in his interview. Hilarious that, the joke of a shovel, a pre-strung stick, the fact that it was quite literally a gardening shovel. I think he could score 11 points in the professional league with using a shovel.
Or a rake. He did it with a rake too. I think a hoe, he would crush it with a hoe.
Oh yeah,
the hold in a hoe is ridiculous, right?
You'd shoot so hard.
So much hold.
Yeah,
what other gardening tools have got great?
So we asked him, and
skills?
he's like, I don't know, probably any of them. I'm thinking those lawn tillers, the ones that are they're metal spicy, throwing stars almost, just on the end. You might have a tough time.
I know what you're talking about.
That. Yeah.
You roll them on the ground to aerate.
Yeah, you might have a tough time.
Do people still aerate?
Probably.
Because I remember in high school...
Has something happened that...
Welcome to the weird tangent.
Anymore?
So in high school, they used to it's called aerating. I might just be a southern or Texas thing where they just put a bunch of holes in the ground and they pull up all the dirt. And the theory is it airs out the ground, I guess. But they don't do that anymore, so I don't
do that. I assume they do that. I've got a lot of family that owns farms and stuff, and I think they do that.
But it was on lacrosse fields they would do it.
Oh yeah,
it was weird.
Yeah, just big. I remember football fields, and they'd get super muddy because it'd rain the day after they aerate, and it'd just be ruined because it was all just dirt holes.
Dude,
I remember that well.
Fields are weird. In Texas, freaking if it rains an inch, they will kick you off public fields.
That's true.
Just gone. And then I'll go back east and I'll coach a tournament. We'll literally be on a dirt field in Maryland somewhere in some middle school.
Or you'll see like games
whatever.
being played like at Towson and stuff where there's like literally 6 feet of snow that's just been shoveled off, and they're like, that's fine. Like, we'll just play.
Here they're like, oh,
Like
rain, you're
walls
gone,
of
get
snow.
off. Or that,
Love
do you
it.
remember that, what was it, that UNC game? Was it last year or 2 years ago?
Oh my gosh, yes.
When
The
it
Hopkins UNC game, and they were literally playing in like a foot and a half of mud.
So I guess they...
That was the worst
They
lacrosse
used
game
to
I've
play
ever
at the
watched.
soccer field, and they were redoing the soccer facility at UNC to like do new turf and all that kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, you can play in the football field. I'm like, that's cool. That's really fun. But the football field's grass, and it rained probably 4 or 5 inches throughout the process of the game. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was nuts. That was hilarious. You want to talk about learning how to string? That's a good opportunity to do so.
That's so
When you're
brutal.
playing with 15 pounds of rain going on.
That reminds me when I was probably 6th, 7th grade, when I was playing deep hole. We were at like some public field here in Texas, and like there was just a big hole in the middle of the field.
Good.
It was just full of water.
Yeah, good.
I don't remember how deep it was, and the ball ended up going in there, and everyone was just staring at it, and I just stuck my stick in and just had the greatest ground ball of my life, and I was cradling above everyone, and mud is just everywhere, and I'm doing spins and stuff, and I think my stick was still messed up from that like years later.
Did you ever play the Mudslinger tournament down in the Woodlands?
God, this is getting Texas specific.
We're getting very Texas specific.
I might have coached it this year. I don't. Is that a spring thing or a fall thing?
Very early spring, like
Yeah.
January.
So we played that. This was our first
winter,
year.
I
Our
guess,
D2
technically,
team
but-
played at it.
So what the
Brutal.
only memories I have from that tournament are quite literally it raining every single time we were out there. But I remember one year, I guess, we were out there, and it had just been pouring, and there was same thing, just like puddles of water, and a guy had a plastic cup, like a cup that you would drink out of, and a Home
I
Depot
thought
bucket,
of a different cup.
and was just that probably wouldn't have worked as well. Was just quite literally scooping the water into the bucket, like just sitting down on one puddle.
some guy who
one
worked
part
at
of
the park?
field. Yeah. I don't know. He was a tournament director or what, but it was hysterical. And then we had to finish the games covered in mud, disgusting, and then drive back from Houston to Austin, which is like 3.5 hours.
Brutal.
No shower, anything. Oh, it was awful.
Change of clothes?
Yeah, well, whatever you packed.
Oh,
it was
goodness.
overnight.
And you're like a
2
high
days.
school kid. You're not.
Yeah,
you're not
exactly. So
packing.
I was like, yeah, it was no fun.
One time when we were driving back from Austin, again, Texas specific, welcome. We had a game on like a Sunday afternoon or Sunday morning, and we weren't staying the night at the hotel another night, right? So we played the game or whatever, it was over, and then they were just like, what do we do? And then one of our coaches who went to UT is like, well, let's just go to Barton Springs, which is like the river, and we just swam for like an hour,
Yeah,
and
that
then we
would
got
work.
on the bus
Clean
and left.
water?
It was awesome.
Barton Springs is great. Austin's great. Great times.
Shout out Texas, specific Texas
Shout out
things.
very specific Texas things. This is what happens when you don't have a lot of lacrosse to talk about.
I mean, the what is it? The World Games got pushed to 2021 in LA, though. I saw that.
That's exciting.
So, I mean,
There's new face-off rules, I guess. We talked about that a
You
little
want to talk
bit.
about face-off rules real quick?
We'll talk about a little bit of face-off rules.
So, face-off rules are
It's probably better than talking about Barton Springs.
original. Barton Springs is fun though. It's face-off rules or not. Sorry, face-off dweebs. So they changed the
Dang.
rules, so you're no longer allowed to motorcycle grip where both your palms are down and like your fists are like out, and you can't have a knee on the ground anymore to start. So now what you have to do is called standing neutral grip, where you are like literally hunched over in the most awkward position of all time, and you're holding the stick just like you normally would when you throw, with your top hand with the palm facing up, your bottom hand palm facing down. I don't know how much of it's gonna because
who that makes no sense to me. I mean, it makes sense, but it's technique, right? Like it's
you
like,
can still
oh yeah,
clamp.
the NBA has eliminated two-handed dunks. Like, okay,
you can still clamp, you can still do everything you were allowed to do back then. The big issue is they're tired of like two guys just like wiggling
Standing
their bottom
there for
hand
2 minutes, yeah.
and just fighting over the ball, and then they also want what's called continuous motion. So once you clamp, they want you out of there in one move. They don't want you taking 2 or 3 tries, which is annoying because a lot of the times you're just getting held by the other guy and you can't get out. So that's frustrating. I think the idea is that they hate the specialization of the face-off position.
Yeah.
They hate that like one team that potentially has more resources can invest in just having face-off players, and other programs that can invest that resources, and they're just going to get dominated in possession every single time.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a weird push recently to like make lacrosse faster, like with the shot clock and with this and with the the Olympic rules and all this stuff, which maybe I'm just not tuned in the right conversations, but like I've never met a person who's like, man, lacrosse pretty boring. They should really pick up the pace.
Also, who was ever like face-offs too slow? It's like it's only slow when you blow the whistles.
Yeah, and of course, like we've both seen the 4-minute face-offs where 2 guys are just
But that's
pushing
kinda
their hands
sick.
again. Yeah, but I love that,
That's
right?
kinda
And everyone
sick.
else on the outside just kind of like not really sure what to
Yeah.
do. Like I'm all for that. That's fine.
I think they picked a weird thing to try and speed up the game.
Agreed.
Because like, what was it?
And the shot clock is fine, and I don't think
clock's good.
like I like the shot clock, especially because it's not like 24 seconds. Like 80 seconds is a long time to do.
I mean,
something
when the
with,
horn
but-
died in like what was it, 2011, 2012? Like that's when the speed picked up. When you could running restart, when it was quicker, the box got expanded, all that kind of stuff. Like that's when it picked up. But like
running restarts were big.
Oh my God,
I
so
remember.
huge.
I remember starting.
dude, watching a Stanwyck just sprint off the end line with the ball is intimidating.
or a goalie chases and then
Oh
has to
my
like book it back to crease. Yeah, love it.
But like, I don't know. It just seems like a weird thing to be like, let's speed up the pace of play. It's like,
Right.
it wasn't that slow to begin with. It's only slow when they're like setting up. Like once a whistle goes, it's fine.
Yeah.
The problem is when, for me personally, when officials are just blowing the whistle constantly, that's what slows it down. Like
Agreed.
the ball going out of bounds, it's just like, ultimately there's going to be a flow. The problem is if you put rules in to stop the flow, you're going to stop the flow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that's everything we needed to cover. Austin checked off the list. Playing lacrosse with a shovel checked
Niche
off the
lacrosse
list.
tournaments in Texas.
The mudslinger we talked about. So let's get into the interview with, I'd say, the greatest player of all time. I'll die on that hill. I think
So
he's
I'm a
the greatest
gate
player of
pal
all
guy
time.
still, but like
Yeah, just
post college career definitely better.
You got to look at a guy too that took years off, plural, came back and played when he was 44
No, for
and
sure.
was an all-star.
Post college. I put much more value in the college game personally.
Yeah, I mean, I guess
He's still awesome. No offense. I love it. John Grant's the man.
We're really cornering in on these lacrosse legends on the podcast. Mark Millen,
Humble
John
brag.
Grant. I mean, hey, we're getting it done. John Grant Jr., new offensive coordinator at Johns Hopkins. Check it out. All right, welcome back to the Monkey Business Podcast. Big interview for you today. We've got lacrosse legend, newly named Johns Hopkins offensive coordinator, John Grant Jr. John, how you doing?
Doing okay. How are you?
We're doing well. Very excited to have you on. Thank you for taking the time to come on for a bit. Let's start right there with the introduction. So, newly named offensive coordinator at Johns Hopkins. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Despite everything that's kind of going on in the world right now, it's been a challenge as far as getting to work. But I mean, me and the other coaches are in 3 different states right now, and we're trying to make the best of it. But yeah, I look forward to everyone getting healthy again, where I can pick up and head my way to Baltimore.
Yeah, so let's go into that a little bit. Just kind of what was the process like of getting hired? Obviously, I imagine just from coaching alone, it's not your standard. You put in an application and stuff, but especially now, how was that process for you? Just getting this job in the first place.
It was actually pretty bizarre because I reached out to Coach Millman. We've been friends. We played for the Rattlers together way back in the day. I reached out to him about a couple of his Cornell players for the MLL draft, and in speaking to him about that, and we just were talking lacrosse, and what should have taken a 5-minute conversation, we ended up, I think, being on the phone for like 3 hours, and really, I think further put in place that we philosophically are pretty similar in all aspects of coaching, as far as offensive play, culture building, and then just a couple days later, and he's asked kind of if I'd be interested in actually interviewing. And I actually asked my boss, which was my wife, and then Coach Millman reached out to Coach Wilson and asked kind of permission to interview. And then that went quick. That was literally talk to him for a couple hours in kind of an interview capacity, talk to the athletic director, Jen Baker, for an hour, and basically found out the next day that, I was the one. And then I had kind of like 24 hours or so to kind of make the decision, a family decision, because it wasn't, as far as lacrosse goes in my career, it was a no-brainer.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife and daughter are pretty firmly entrenched in a really nice community here with me in Highlands Ranch, and to uproot them, it wasn't an easy decision, but it's a decision we just had to make as a family. So
you're still in Denver now. You mentioned you've not yet made the move out there.
no, I mean, we're not even allowed on campus there, so there's not really any need for me to get there right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing our due diligence as far as getting to know the current players. We set up, multiple Zoom calls per week with that as the coaching staff. I think we're talking almost every day for an hour or two, just going through everything we need to do. As far as the new hire, it's not just me that's being hired, right? Me, the head coach, and the assistant. So we're all kind of navigating a new frontier in an uncertain time. So it's been challenging, but Coach Kester has been awesome with his experience of being at Hopkins before. Has really been helpful, and the administration have been just awesome as far as giving us everything we need to do to just to do our jobs right now. And it's been a challenge, like especially kind of a hands-on business where you're in the office and coaching staff kind of hunkers in and puts together their plans and puts together everything you need to do, and that's kind of a face-to-face thing generally. But obviously we're just like everyone else in the world right now, just trying to do everything we can to keep everyone safe. So
from a philosophical standpoint, what are some of the challenges of coming into a program that's so established like a Hopkins, that's all the kids have been entrenched with Coach Petromala, and he's the one who recruited them? What sort of challenges have you guys faced, like trying to know your players and understand their abilities and understand how to use them in the best capacity?
Yeah, I think any coaching staff that comes into a program, they're not our guys. We didn't recruit them. I think, we may know some of them, and I've watched enough film in the last couple of years on the current guys to kind of know them lacrosse player-wise, but to learn what drives them, to learn what motivates them, what buttons to push, when to put an arm around a guy, those are the relational parts. And I know I'm not the only one. Me and the other two coaches really believe in building relationships and building trust with these guys, and that's challenging right now. I think X's and O's, we could speak all day about what we plan to do that way, but talent is just one small piece of the puzzle, and we're trying to build strong teammates, and it's been challenging to try to do that now, but we're putting a lot of onus on some of the leadership group, some of the kids that, have come forth that we've kind of put as a leadership group, and to try to get them to try to facilitate as much as this to the guys that they know already. And we're not the only ones dealing with it. We're just, we're dealing with it with a new group, but, we're extremely excited, and I'm extremely excited because I think Coach K and Coach Millman are two of the brightest coaches in the country right now. To be able to join forces with those two guys is just awesome, and I can't wait to learn every day from them. And, we've already had some meetings with the advisory board, and some of the best players of all time are kind of on these boards, and it's crazy just the support this program gets. And with that comes great expectations, but who doesn't want a challenge like that?
For sure. And, speaking of talent and bringing in new talent, we're kind of entering into what's going to be probably the craziest recruiting year or two that's ever going to happen for the sport, with most of these tournaments probably not going to be happening this summer. What has been y'all's approach to sort of recruiting and figuring out the best way to find the right players? Not necessarily like the best players, but the right guys that are going to fit y'all's system and fit the program of Hopkins.
Yeah, well, I think, and I can't speak for the other two coaches, but in our conversations and even in the interview process, I think all three of us are firm believers in getting to know the coaches and some of the role models of the young athletes that we're looking at. Anyone can send a highlight video. You can see a guy kind of go out on a recruiting event and do his thing, but when we're pretty serious, and Coach Millman speaks on it very, very diligently, that we're looking for great teammates. Every kid's got some talent out there. We got to find the right guys that's going to fit our culture and that want to be exceptional teammates. It's worked for Coach Millman in the past. I believe that in my 40 years in this game, that is what separates teams that win from the teams that don't. And you can't find that out just from speaking to kids. You can, but really, really diving in and building relationships with coaches across the country, and club coaches and club directors, even reaching out to the football coach and the hockey coach, whatever it is, just to get a true, well-rounded understanding of what type of kid we're bringing in. And I think all three of us are on board with that, and I'm hopeful that's going to be a good plan going forward. It's been successful for those guys before, and it's a little different than what I was doing at Air Force, but I believe in it because I think great teammates lead to championship teams, and that's just, you can't beat that.
So you kind of made a point just of it being different than what you were doing at Air Force. Maybe you kind of go into that a little bit more, because I'm sure obviously the challenges of recruiting a player into a service academy versus recruiting them to a place like Hopkins Lacrosse that is so coveted for so many athletes is pretty vastly different. I mean, what are some things that you've noticed, apart from everything that's going on in the world, that's just maybe different, easier, harder about trying to get somebody to Hopkins versus to Air Force?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a young man that decides to give in the service academies, whether it be Air Force, Army, or Navy, is a different kid. You're not getting just the lax rat that, is go play 4 years of lacrosse and go get a job in New York or Chicago or wherever. Like, these guys are sacrificing so much for their families and for their country. And it was really, really inspiring to be in that setting and to watch and learn from these guys, because it's extremely difficult to go to one of the academies. I can only speak for the Air Force, but I'm assuming the other two are as challenging, if not more challenging. And these guys give everything they got, and for them to still, have the 2-3 hours a day to give everything they got to us as lacrosse coaches, like I've never been more inspired by everything that the academy provides. I owe them a great debt of gratitude for being able to be a part of it and to learn. But you can find a lot about a young man who is, giving himself up to service for his country. But I mean, they're lacrosse kids just like some of the other guys. And, I think most of the service academy kids, that wasn't like their aspiration their whole life to go into the academy and serve their country. And for a lot of them, they were the first one of their family to do it. But Hopkins has a different kind of, obviously, the prestige and the tradition of that place. Like, these guys understand, and it's not easy to go into a place where winning championships is literally the goal. Mm-hmm. And, going there, getting a great education, like, there's a lot of pressure. So these kids are under a tremendous amount of pressure just to live up to the expectations of a Hopkins man, knowing full well that they can do everything they need to do on the field and off the field. They're going to be setting themselves up for success down the road. But same thing, with great power comes great expectations. Like, these guys are constantly expected to be their best versions of themselves. And for a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, that's challenging at times. So different circumstances, but in all, it's great to see these type of kids that really, really want to give everything they got, and to really have the fortitude to look down the road and not just, I want to go play lacrosse and be on TV on the weekends. Like, these guys know there's a lot of expectations. So I look forward to getting to know these guys just as well as I did the Air Force kids.
So kind of going back more to the minutia of coaching and strategy and philosophy, what sort of positives from the Air Force and from the system you guys are running do you look to take to Hopkins, and what sort of negatives or things that might not have worked that you might want to eliminate from your offense and your scheme and system?
Well, and that's going to be an ongoing process with Coach Millman. At Air Force, I was pretty much given the keys to the offense, and, I had a lot of extremely, talented athletes, could run hard, shoot hard, and played hard, but the kind of artistic side of the game, where, coming from Canada, where, that's kind of where I've seen kids thrive. So I had to kind of almost change the way I coached around the kids I had. I couldn't just run two-man offense, motion offense, and expect it all to work right away. Like, it was a process to teach it, to develop these guys in small increments to be able to have the kind of IQ I thought was necessary to be a highly successful lacrosse player. And I thought we were on the right path. I mean, within, I only got a year and a half in, but you see some of the growth and some of our guys was just awesome to see. Like, guys that weren't throwing it behind the back when I first got there, we're scoring 4, 5, 6 of those a year. And I'm not just saying it's stuff like that, but it was just training an IQ and a different style of lacrosse, where trying to maximize high percentage shooting, where a lot of these guys were, grew up just going down the alley and shooting on the run. We kind of punished that type of lacrosse and really tried to develop a different style for these guys that have never played like that. And it was tough for some of them, but I think some of the guys that took it over really, really started to thrive. And Coach Millman and I really believe in the same things as far as a motion offense and maximizing high percentage shooting and ball movement. And, now I'm going to be able to bring in, and I'm not to say I couldn't bring in exactly what I wanted at Air Force, but now I'll be able to bring in with Coach Millman. I think there's no really limit on the kids I can bring in now as far as that IQ that we're going to be looking for.
So on the flip side of that, kind of just thinking about from an ability standpoint, obviously, you coached in the MLL for a while and with Outlaws and an already very successful team. How different is it to have to coach at that professional level versus just the collegiate level from kind of the standpoint that you took it apart from obviously the player coach stuff?
Yeah, well, I think year to year was a little different. I mean, there was before Air Force, I think I had 1 year I was coaching with the Outlaws and coaching at Valor High School. So I had high school kids that literally just started playing, and I had the best players in the world. I had, Courier, Cabanon, Slosher, and Cloutier, and I had Drew Schneider. I was fortunate to coach some of these guys that I played with. So it was really, you don't get a lot of practice time, so you had to kind of simplify things as far as schematics, just so that everyone was on the same page, but not putting too much in to kind of suffocate the abilities they already had. And just being a guy that's played, that was still kind of just playing and, just kind of finished up, I kind of understood how to get through to these guys, because I knew as a high-level lacrosse player how I would receive coaching, good and bad, and I just basically tried to steal everything that I learned from some of the best coaches of all time that I got to play for, and then literally develop a way to teach these guys in almost the same way I was teaching the high school. And then fast forward a year, and in Air Force, I had to really, at times, some of the Air Force kids didn't grasp some of the stuff my high-level Valor kids did. And so I found you have to develop an offense or a system, a level of development to suit the players you have, and not just blanket my ways and my philosophy over who I have. So I was really able to develop 3 styles of very similar lacrosse at 3 varying levels, like JV kids to basically all-world players, and then same thing, youth players with Air Force guys, and then trying it at the pro level and seeing which worked. And it was really a dream come true to be able to just be almost a mad scientist, so to speak, to see what worked at what level and what didn't. And ultimately, my goal is to get the kids to play without me even having to bring a clipboard to the field. And we were getting to that point at Air Force where I was confident that I didn't need to draw plays up anymore. These guys were developed the chemistry and the philosophies within themselves on and off ball that they go out there and execute the game plan.
What have you found that is the easiest way to communicate that sort of philosophy and those motion sets? Is it through originally going up on the board with everyone together and then going out and practice, or is it just something that develops over time through these kids?
Well, I think every kid has a different learning style. I know myself, I was a visual guy. I needed to kind of see it. If you just verbalized it to me, I wouldn't figure it out. I need to see it. There's certain guys that need to have the ball and stick and actually be running through the motion. So you have to develop a way to get through all your kids' learning styles. A little bit of digital, a little bit of whiteboard, a lot of reps. But I find I'm a very collaborative coach. I was kind of a dictator as a player. It was kind of my way or the highway. And through those years and understanding how that affected my teammates, I realized as a coach I need to be more collaborative. And I'm very demonstrative, so I'm in the drills, and I always have my stick. There's never a practice where I don't have my stick in my hand. So demonstrating and just giving a lot of opportunity for error early. That's where I think when I first started coaching, I did not give enough opportunity for repetition. It was like kind of, why don't you get this now? You've worked on it twice. It was a patience thing I had to learn. Which is, I had that when I was a player as well. I was playing with kids that were 20 years younger than me, and it was frustrating at times. Like, how come you guys just don't understand this? And understanding that everyone's on a different kind of learning curve. That I had to learn to be a better leader of my team and to really work with the players I was playing with, and then ended up playing coach. So you just got to have patience to understand not everyone's going to get it at the same time, and you just really got to, do small part, big part, small part, and never be afraid to, kind of wipe the slate clean and start over. Like, some things just may not work with the group you got, and you got to have the pride in mind to change.
So I think you kind of made a very unique point within that of your time then player coaching last year, coming back to the MLL obviously and setting more records and everything. But how tough was it to find that balance, I guess, between putting something on yourself versus moving it to another player or something when you are, out on the field and have the opportunity to go take it to the rack or something? Was it tough to kind of find that balance, or did you think you just kind of fit in perfectly to where you were just another piece to what you kind of already had in your mind?
Yeah, well, physically, I knew I wasn't going to be able to be the alpha of the offense. And to be quite honest, even if I thought I could do that, I probably would have been a detriment to my team. I basically played on one leg for the last 10, 12 years. But last summer specifically, it was, give or take whether or not I could even get out there and play more than maybe a man-up shift. That was kind of the plan at the beginning of the summer. Just try to get some reps in here and there, help and kind of coach. We were so young, losing a lot of our guys, a lot of like the best players in the world, and we brought a lot of rookies in.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to kind of coach from the field as a, second, almost sometimes not even a part of the offense as much as, just directing traffic and moving the ball. And there was a couple times through the year where I felt I had an opportunity to bring us momentum, just we weren't getting things done. And like any offense, sometimes you can struggle. And, I think, the semifinal game against Boston was one small moment in time where I was able to replicate what I've done my whole career, but to the detriment of the championship game where I couldn't even walk. So I found, and not to talk too long about it, but it was a pretty cool. I think if I wasn't coaching and if I was trying to play, I don't know if maybe my old pride would have stepped in, and I don't know if I would have been so pumped about being like the fifth option on the offense. But I was so busy coaching that it made it easy for me to kind of just slide in and just be a part of it and have everyone else really, really succeed in their skill sets. We had guys who could do certain things really well, and other guys could do other things. We had dodgers and shooters, and it was pretty cool to be on the field moving the chess pieces around and trying not to be a detriment at the same time.
So where does the John Grant Jr. professional career sit right now? Is that book closed?
I'm not saying it's closed. I've had plenty of time to train. It's for some reason it's been harder to do that. I'm a guy that needs like trainers and therapists and chiropractors, and not a lot of those are available. So I've been kind of training in my basement or in my garage or in the backyard, and I don't know. Well, there's several different looks to what the season may be, and if it ends up being multiple games in a weekend, I don't think double headers or even triple headers or whatever it may look like will work for me. But I'd never ever say never. I'm going to keep training, and if there's an opportunity, great. But I go into every season, whether I was young guy or a 45-year-old has been trying to make the team. I don't assume or expect to make any team. I've never had that mindset. I go and try to take a spot, but we'll see. I think I could play the game. I just think my left knee is so far gone, it may just not allow me to even do what I did last year, which was way less than what I'm normally used to doing. But there's no need to give it up now, and it's always good to have something to dangle in front of me to get me to train a little bit more, because that's the hardest thing when you retire is to try to stay in that shape, right?
What fueled the comeback a little bit? Obviously you could have continued to play just throughout without even needing to come back. What you've proved last year, but what in you kind of switched back to like, okay, I'm going to try to come back and continue to compete?
It has a lot to do with my daughter and my family. I was so obsessed and focused on lacrosse that it was almost like my life was separated into two categories. There was like lacrosse player junior and then family junior, and they didn't really mix. And it was something I really regretted, that, you know, my wife and daughter didn't share the same experiences with my career that I did. I know I played a lot before my daughter was born, but I really made it important that they were involved in everything. Flying to the All-Star weekend, bringing them to road games, having them around all the time. And as a way to kind of show my daughter, you know, anything's possible. And, you know, as an only child, she is getting into team sports, but I thought it would be really, really cool to get, you know, kind of open the hood and let her kind of see what high-level team sports is like, and, you know, the motivation behind it, the training behind it, and sometimes the pain and sacrifice behind it. You know, and we were, you know, 2 horrific calls short of winning, and, you know, a pretty storybook ending. And to see the tears in my wife and daughter after that game, I mean, they were uncontrollable. I was okay with it because I knew I'd kind of given everything I got, but, you know, they didn't really understand it. So there was a lot of life lessons in that for her. And that was pretty cool that I could kind of do that. And the Outlaws gave me the opportunity to really allow them to be a major part of the whole thing. Like, even some of the Jumbotron stuff we shot before the season, Gabby was with me in it. And I thought it was a cool experience. And at 10 years old, that's something she's never going to forget. I mean, she doesn't really remember when I was, you know, winning championships and still winning MVPs when she was like 2, 3, 4 years old. So I thought it'd be really, really cool to give her something to remember, you know. And we weren't sure it was going to work, and I wasn't sure I was going to be able to play. And I was figuring Tony Seaman could cut me at any time, but for some reason I was just able to gut it out. And it was a heck of a season. It's going to be a memorable season forever. But like I said, we should have won. We could have won. We were right there, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it would have happened, would I have retired probably right as soon as the trophy was handed to me? Probably. So there's always something to motivate people to do amazing things, and if that's going to happen again, great. I love the group. The coaching staff's awesome. You know, now with, you know, my old teammate being my boss, Matt Block, like I love that. It's a family group, and I love the group that we got back on the field. So we'll see if I can be a part of it in a dual role, or if not, it's just a coaching role. But all in all, right now, almost all my focus is on Hopkins and getting to know the players I've got. And, you know, Outlaws will be, you know, second to kind of my main focus at Hopkins. But that's what MLL is for most guys, right? Not many people made a living just playing the game. It's always kind of your hobby after the fact. And that's how we're looking at it right now.
So that's kind of a pretty decent point too, though. So kind of going way back to sort of the start of your career and everything, you know, your father had a great lacrosse career and everything, but yeah, like you said, not a lot of people really have made lacrosse kind of their full livelihood. What was sort of your mindset? Because, you know, you had the opportunity to go play and you went to college instead and then came back and, you know, were a rookie at 24, 25 years old. What was sort of your overall like life mindset of I'm going to try to make lacrosse work, or I'm going to continue to do it as a hobby?
Yeah, well, I mean, growing up, pro lacrosse indoor was kind of around. I mean, I saw my dad play in '87. He kind of brought him back out of retirement. So I got to go see that a little bit, but it kind of died away. You know, like most Canadians, I thought maybe I was going to be a hockey player, but I was just too small. I mean, I was a late bloomer. I didn't start growing until I was like 19, 20. And then I wasn't even really sure I wanted to go play NCAA lacrosse. Like, it wasn't really a huge driving force for me. I mean, I started a high school lacrosse team at St. Pete's where I grew up. They didn't have a team. And then I went to a lacrosse camp in, like, it was Hamilton, New York or something, where I was like, wow, this is something. There, I don't know how many, 500-600 kids there, but me and my best friend, Tracy Kulewski, were there. Casey Powell was at that event. And that's where I started to be like, you know what? I think I can do this, and B, I want to do this. So then, you know, I kind of went through that whole phase of trying to go to D1 and had some junior college experiences that are not positive. And as I was kind of toiling around that whole, should I play for the Bandits because I got drafted or go to college, I realized I needed a degree. And also, my ultimate goal growing up was to be a phys ed teacher. That was kind of my plan. So when I got my degree and did teachers college to go teach, I realized for me to be the best lacrosse player I could be, that I needed to focus on it. I mean, even right out of college, I'd already had back surgery. Then a couple years later, I had knee surgery. So I had to spend basically my whole week just being able to play on the weekend. That's kind of how my career was. I mean, I could barely walk all week. I would train when I could, get rehab when I could, and then go play on the weekend. And then just that happened. So when you live that mindset, it was very challenging to kind of work a full-time job. So I kind of put the education piece aside and just go full into the lacrosse lifestyle and, endorsing products and doing camps and clinics and that sort of thing. And as that was happening, both leagues started up and lacrosse started to grow, and I was able to make a pretty decent career out of just playing lacrosse. And it's kind of funny, the phys ed degree came in handy with my job at Air Force, because that's part of your job description at Air Force, that all the coaches teach phys ed classes. So I kind of got back to that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, I never had dreams or aspirations as a little kid to be, go play Division I and end up coaching Division I. But, life takes turns, and I'm so happy that I'm where I'm at, because I just absolutely love coaching college lacrosse, and this is what I want to do. And I want to try to be the best coach that I can be. Kind of how I drove myself to try to be the best lacrosse player I could be. At least with coaching, I don't have physical limitations. There's nothing that can stop me from just keep getting better and better. And the two guys I'm joined with at Hopkins are going to help me do that. So I'm excited about that.
So obviously, there's hours and hours that we can talk about your career and everything, but for the sake of time, I have one final question for you. And I thought of it the other day when I saw you post an Instagram video of you using a shovel for some stick work. What garden tool do you think you could not be successful with playing lacrosse? Because I don't know if I can find one.
Garden tool. I'm not a big gardener, so I gotta think about what my wife has.
You made the shovel look pretty easy, I'll say that much.
Yeah, the shovel I did, the rake I've done. I could probably find a way to score a goal with pretty much any one of the tools. It'd take a couple reps to figure it out, but I don't know, pretty much anything. I mean, that's just how I was when I was a kid. If I didn't have a lacrosse stick, we found something to play lacrosse with, whether it was holding on to a frisbee or using our lacrosse or a hockey stick, baseball bats, whatever it was. Hand-eye coordination seems to be something I was gifted with. So fortunately, that hasn't really gone away. But I get a kick out of sometimes I get the inspiration to go and do something goofy in the backyard, and I didn't think the shovel one would take off as much as it did, but I've hit some writer's blocks, so maybe I should once things calm down in the world right now, and I don't really want to make any videos right now about any of that stuff. There's way more important things going on in our society, but once things get kind of back to some normalcy, I may offer up the opportunity for kids to challenge me to do something, but I got to talk to my true people about that.
Yeah, there we go. We'll make a quick trip to Lowe's and look around at some of the tools and give you some ideas with the writer's block.
Well, as long as I'm not buying all the stuff, my wife would be happy with that.
We'll find a way. We'll put it on someone's bill.
There we go.
All right, well, great. John Grant Jr., thank you so much for the time. Best of luck to you in your future. We'll be looking forward to hopefully some more professional memories and everything, but obviously in your upcoming career at Johns Hopkins. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you again to John Grant Jr., newly appointed offensive coordinator at Johns Hopkins and one of the best players of all time. Always appreciate opportunity to get to talk to some of these absolute legends. And thank you guys again for tuning in to the Monkey Business podcast brought to you by the Monkey Sports Podcast. We appreciate your continued support. Got an episode of The Outer Roll next week, our Goalie Monkey podcast. Be sure to check that out. Stay subscribed to the Monkey Sports Podcast. As always, use promo code PODCAST10, PODCAST, the number 10, 10% off your entire order at lacrossemonkey.com. Some exclusions may apply. Thank you again. We'll be back for Monkey Business and again in a month's time, and we will see you then.